All right, I want to welcome everybody to the latest installment of the Northeast Broadband Steering Committee, February 25th, 2022. Scrivener's note there.
Yeah, right.
Year of our Lord, Anno Domini. So if we go ahead and see a few new faces, we do some real quick introductions. Let's start with Keith.
Yeah, Keith Iceberg here in Columbia, Missouri. We do research with broadband and economic development. And Abner Womack's my partner. He's at his home today, but sometime he'll get on today with us. But we've been doing this research for about 8 years now, and working with Lewis down there to try and get some things going for rural Missouri and broadband, and make the best use of federal funds.
Thank you for joining us. Wendy?
Hello, everyone. Wendy Brumbaugh, Shelby County Economic Development Director, headquartered in Bethel, big town of Bethel.
The metropolis.
You're right.
Yeah.
Das Bakery.
Yes, the best.
Well.
John. Yeah, John French.
Oh, John?
Yeah, John French, Superintendent at Lewis County C1 School District.
Tom Shively?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me all right?
Can hear you.
Yeah, it's Shelby County Eastern Commissioner, and we're interested in trying to do everything we can for Shelby County to catch up to the new century.
You guys are my poster children this month, so keep up the good work. See Abner.
Abner Womack, University of Missouri. I'm an emeritus professor. I've been working with Keith now for about 5 years on rural broadband, looking at electric co-ops and some of the regional work that we've done. Trying to get prepared for the big slot of money that's coming down the road next year, $65 billion. And what share we might be able to get out of that. And our chunk ought to be a big one, so that's what we're aiming for. What can we put together to help with to get head in that direction?
Into that, David.
Dave Lomax, presiding commissioner in Marion County, working with Sheraton Valley and Mark Twain to fill in the holes, get the fiber in the ground, and Spectrum's kind of come into the game here lately, talking about what they can do in Hannibal and going up the east side of the county.
And we call that competition.
Amazing how that works.
Yeah.
All right. Glenn.
Yeah, Glenn Egan, presiding commissioner, Shelby County. We do have a meeting set up for March 7th with the entire county, with Sheraton Valley and Mark Twain Telephone Company, trying to figure out exactly what we want to do throughout Shelby County. So, sorry, I'm having trouble with my camera getting it to come up. You're not seeing me, are you?
Not
No.
yet. We hear you.
No. I had my technology wife in there working on it, but she wasn't able to get it either. So,
Like I created grandchildren.
That's right.
right.
All right, Cindy.
Cindy Thompson, Vernon County Associate Commissioner, located in Nevada, Missouri. And we're just in the process of thinking through this and forming committees and stealing some information from you.
It's not theft if we give it to you, so
All
you're
right,
you're just taking it.
I will take it.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for the invitation.
Janie.
Good afternoon. I'm Janie Dunning. I am the broadband consultant for Missouri Farm Bureau. Worked for USDA Rural Development for more years than some of you may be old. And I've been working on broadband ever since I left there. It's kind of been on my plate.
Working on it or obsessing over it like some of us do?
Yeah. You know that it's an obsession when you and the representative get on a call late at night and at 10:30 or 11 o'clock, you're not smart enough to be asleep. You're still on that call.
Thank you. Renee?
Good Good afternoon, Renee Reeder. I'm with Kingdom Telephone Company and Finks Fiber. We serve Callaway County, Montgomery County, parts of Boone, Audrain, and a little bit of Randolph.
All right. Thank you for joining us. Scott. You there?
Muted.
Double mute.
Could be.
Come back to him. JR.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Representative Riggs. I'm J.R. Barres from Tiger Hawk Technologies, and I get to deal with people's webcams all day.
Including your own.
Including my own, yes, sir.
Right. Brian, what's the good news?
Well, there's $42 million coming to Marion, Shelby, and Monroe counties for broadband. That's the good news. Well, we could talk about that later. This is Brian Nichols with Congressman Graves' office.
And we will talk about that later. So it's good news for a change. Abe Gray. Are you there?
I'm here.
You're up.
I don't have any major updates, guys.
You just
Introduction.
Yeah, you just introduced.
I was getting off a different call. CFO, Northeast Missouri Electric Power Cooperative, attending kind of as a proxy for Allie Bennett, who's out.
So are you taking notes too?
Not many.
Okay.
Oh,
Got it covered. Tell her we said hi.
Yeah, will do.
Tracy.
Hi, Tracy Graham, Associate Commissioner, Audrain County. Thank you, Representative Riggs.
Just saw NACO's put out a technology guide for county leaders talking about cybersecurity. I'm taking a wild guess you're part of that.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right, get out here a little bit as well. Looks like Derek.
Yeah, Derek Weber, Executive Director, Northeast Missouri Regional Planning Commission. Served the Northeast 6 counties of Missouri, gone through a broadband mapping study, and now working through our next processes of how we're going to assist our counties and cities and getting some of this funding.
All right, we'll come back to you in a little bit. Sherry.
Good afternoon, Sherry Shenorick. I'm a Regional Manager of the North for Missouri Economic Development.
Not sure who the phone number is down there. Oh, there's somebody waiting. Yeah. Ray Bozar's coming in. There's Ray. He's still connecting. He's good.
Yeah, Ray, what can you tell us that well, Brian gave us the good news. So how much is Marion County going to get out of that 42 million? He's still muted.
I think it was 12 counties that the 42 is going to be divided up amongst. So I'll find out. I'll try to find out.
You know, we're still working with looks like St. Charles, St. Louis, Livingston, McDonald, and Boone. We all need it except St. Charles, but it's okay. All right. Anybody else we didn't get to?
Not sure who the phone number is. There was a phone number on there somewhere.
Okay, we'll just go ahead and go around. Lynn.
Oh, Leslie Payne's coming in too.
Lynn Hodges is the manager of Rawls County Electric Cooperative and Rawls Technologies.
Linda Martin, Missouri Department of Economic Development, Regional Engagement.
And Darren Dallas, Sheridan Valley Public Relations and Economic Development.
I'm Corey Mahappy with Hannibal Regional Economic Development Council. I think Leslie just joined us. Did you? Leslie, did you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Leslie Payne with Culver Stockton College.
I believe so.
All right. Well, thank you everybody again for taking time out of a Friday afternoon. We had minutes and questions, additions, subtractions, whatever. If not, entertain a motion to approve as submitted.
So
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 By same sign. Motion. Thank you. Just want to start in a little news on our side of the ledger. I'm going to sit down with our budget chair. It's coming Monday, Cody Smith. So far, we've gone through our budget book. We're calling it the ARPA budget book. It's HR 20. If those of you interested in following along at home, there's a little over $400 million in the governor's request. 200 million of that right at is dedicated to the state broadband fund. The initial plan is they will roll that out in 2 separate rounds. If they get more money, perhaps 3. I'm going to sit down and talk with Cody about the other 200 million and what we're going to do with it. There are several buckets out there, at least 2 of which I look at and say, yeah, there's a little duplication here. There's some other funding out there that frankly, I think other sources can step up and help with that. I mentioned earlier, we have a bill, we call it vertical management, for lack of a better term. It's basically equipping, I'm calling it permission slip bill, equipping every political subdivision of the state, from the state itself down to rural water districts, the schools, individual school districts, individual school buildings, county courthouses, municipal, whatever. If you've got the ability to do it, and it includes state parks are in that, to get their own polls. There's another poll, whatever fund that they're looking at across the state. Want everybody who's capable of putting up something to repeat signals to be able to repeat signals. You don't have to do it. It's not a mandate. It's a permission slip, and that's designed basically for lawyers who give really bad advice. It sounds like this. Well, I don't see it in statute. So rather than taking the risk of somebody slapping them on the hand later, we're going to give them the ability to say, if you want to do this, go ahead. It's okay. So that's something we're going to sit down and talk through those numbers. And the goal here is to get as much money into the state broadband fund as we possibly can at this moment. So we know there's a great deal more federal money coming down. The problem with the federal money is it's federal money with federal strings and census block and all the other stuff attached to it that we all know and love so well, including the idiot Census Bureau, whatever, FCC out of date, obsolete maps. So we're looking at a state solution to mapping. Josh Hurlbert is carrying that particular bill. He has an undergraduate degree in GIS and has some really good ideas about what the state map could and should look like. Buckeye Courtway is handling the vertical management bill. I'm handling the Broadband Development Council bill, which would include a house basically for the map itself through DED, and also a research arm, which we'll talk about in a little more detail later. So we want to be able to validate what's going on out there, who's doing what. We've got a 3-year fuse with the state fund. If you take the state money, you got 3 years to deploy. Or you give the money back. So we're also going to put in place in statute where there's an inspection protocol where folks are out basically doing site visits. We use the Minnesota model to do that, to make sure the state money is going where it's supposed to do. So the budget itself, we've been through the budget book one time. Chairman Smith has indicated he wants to go back through it again. I had a little pushback from somebody I knew was going to give me a little pushback, as far as, well, gee, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Yeah, we know it's a lot of money, but it's not nearly enough. So somebody who has basically a slobbering love affair with Elon Musk still has a love affair going. So we basically need to talk somebody off that particular ledge. It's a solution, but it's not the solution. Anybody who's doing fiber knows that. Can I have an amen from Lynn Hodges?
Absolutely.
There and down. Okay.
I'll give you one too. Amen.
So we understand what's future proof and what's still in the future, but it's not stopping people from getting that game. I continue to get emails and phone calls from people all over the state who have really bad service, who are part of the served areas, quote unquote, that the feds say are peachy keen, and they're not. So we know it continues to be a problem. I talked to the USDA director for the state of Missouri here within the last 2 weeks, and asked point blank, are you going to do anything at the federal level about RDOF and all these parameters? And the answer was one word, no. So we're on our own out here doing our own thing. The feds do what the feds are going to do, sort of. We know it's not the best solution. We can do a better job at the state level, so we're going to continue to do that. Also in the process of putting together, we'll call it an omnibus bill. I've got about 12 bills out there, one of which, another one's going to be filed on Monday for sure, another one probably on Tuesday. Plan is to assemble all those in one committee, which is one of the committees I'm on. I've talked to the committee chair, he's good with it. I've talked to the floor leader, he's good with it. I've talked with the speaker, he's good with it. We'll get that through the House with the minimum of drama. The fun part will be getting it through the Senate, which is basically wasted the first 7 weeks of the entire session doing next to nothing, although we have had people read books, show up in overalls and make apologies and all sorts of other stuff that has nothing to do whatsoever what we're trying to accomplish in Jefferson City. But that's our X factor this year. So I'm dealing with that, talking with lots of folks on the Senate side, plan A, B, C, and D. So if somebody can't do it or somebody's on somebody else's bad list that week, and that's how the Senate works these days, then we'll move down the line, to plan B, C, and D. So yeah, I'm that deep into it already, and we're not to spring break yet. So just want to give everybody that update, let you know we're working on it. There's a lot of money at stake. Our ultimate goal is to make a process that's transparent, that it creates competition, but at the same time, it serves the people who don't have it. Also introduced a bill that would make the minimum speed in Missouri 100 symmetrical. Everybody in the room, I brought that up in front of, did fiber. They had no problem. Of course, other folks aren't doing fiber, have a problem. So, this beginning the conversation and stop the end. We will do what we have to do to make sure that everybody who wants to be in this space can get in it. But at the same time, we need to get ahead of the feds, not playing catch up like we've done for the last 5 years, give or take. Or if you want to go back 10 years to when they tried the first broadband office and it fell flat on its face. So we'd like to get ahead of them for a change. We know where they're going. It's not a mystery. They've recommended it already. They just haven't required it. So at that, I'll just stop. Take any questions.
Jamie has a question. She asked if you have a list of all the bills that you have on the table that could be shared.
Yeah, I have a spreadsheet. It's kind of depressing. So yeah, I can send that out. Anybody who wants that, just email my office and we'll send that out. So yeah, it's like a little scorecard. We'll take out the identifiers, whatever, but I'm not carrying all of the bills. I'll carry the omnibus, but for right now, I'm trying to get other people to carry patches that they're more familiar with and they really like. So
Louis, could you just go ahead and maybe share that with the committee here?
Sure.
It'll save Jeff from getting a whole bunch of emails.
Well, yeah, there's that. Poor Jeff. But he is getting a raise, so that's the good news. The other side, as far as the budget numbers, we're going to go back through that book and make sure that we leave no stone unturned. I've asked a number of questions from providers, and I'll just say it. MoDOT has lots of fiber laid out there. MoDOT is digging their heels in, as MoDOT usually does. We'll see what happens with them. And it's 1,100 miles in and around the city and county of St. Louis that they're not using for anything except MoDOT stuff. And I think there's a little OA piece to that. We're still puzzling through it. They're throwing up all sorts of objections, as they always do. But I took a look at something in another state. Basically, Arizona is using their highway network as middle mile in the isolated areas, and we've got them all over Missouri. We know where they are on 24. But I'm looking at this as something that basically shot across the bow. Found out that DNR has a nice little fiber trail across the Rock Island Trail, which they're willing to cooperate with us on. So one agency's all in, the other one's all out. We'll see where that ends up. But I just want to let everybody know we're on it. It's something that's actually being discussed, and so I'll sit down with the budget chair this week and we'll get a little more clarity on that. So if there are any other questions, if not, I want to go and talk as far as reports from steering committee members. I want to particularly isolate what Shelby County was able to do within the last 2 weeks in Jefferson City, and sitting down and talking with the broadband director, Glenn. I'm trying to think who else was there.
Wendy Brumball.
Wendy was there, you were there, anybody who just wants to jump on that.
Tim Lacy from City of Shelbina. Tim
Okay.
Lacy from City of Shelbina was there.
Tim on the call?
I don't think so.
Okay. And we
Terry
had-
Terry Mefford was there too.
So I don't know how you guys want to handle this, but whoever, Glenn, if you want to start and everybody can supplement in, basically what the process was and what the results were.
Well, we met with BJ and we had a couple maps to show him. The first being the city of Clarence. Shelby County had worked with Sheraton Valley on putting fiber through the middle of Clarence. And so we had that map to show, and then Sheraton Valley kind of talked about what their next process would be, putting fiber throughout the city of Clarence there. And then also in the city of Shelbina, Darren was there and he talked about the process of what it would take to get fiber ran throughout the city of Shelbina. It's like 3.1 million in the city of Shelbina and 1.1 million in the city of Clarence to finish out them two towns. So we were mainly there just getting to know BJ a little bit and kind of getting our name in the hat for future funding for those two projects. And then we also had a map there of the northern part of the county. Mark Twain, they have their co-op area there, and it was like $5.9 million to finish up. They've spent a lot of that money already, but to kind of finish up their co-op area. And then they estimated about another $10 million in the middle of Shelby County to try to get fiber throughout it. And some of them remote areas, they talk like they would probably just stay with wireless in them areas. So it was a very good meeting, a lot of good input, and we want to thank Louis for being there and sharing the Capitol building there. We actually moved to a building a room that had a table in it. So it was very nice that we could all be there together. So.
It's a room I didn't know existed until you guys showed me, so thank you.
Yeah. Darren or Wendy or anybody else want to share anything about that meeting?
I think the meeting went great, and I had met BJ before, but it's always nice to meet him again and work on projects with you and kind of share our experience, how we worked together, with the ARPA funding and stuff before, or the funding before. So I think it was a great meeting, and they are looking at the different cities, counties, providers, putting in the funding, and provided how you do it is on a point system going forward with the broadband grants. So
One thing I think BJ was impressed with the fact that Shelby County's been at this for a while, and we have our ducks in a row, and we're diligent with the plan. So I think for anyone on this meeting, do your homework, and I think that's why we've been able to do what we have with Lewis's help and his dedication to the project. Thank you, Lewis.
Thank you. You guys make it easy. So had that meeting in the morning. And the nice part of that, though, we had Tim there as well. So you had the city, you had the county, you had the state broadband director. And that's basically the way to run this through. So I'm looking for somebody to write this up as a case study. We can share this with other folks, because you did have a plan before you walked in. You had a plan before COVID. So where the county sat down and said, these are our top two priorities. And number one is broadband, number 1A, childcare, both related. But when COVID struck, there was a plan in place. Literally take it off the shelf. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to implement it. So I was able to go to that meeting, then go over and present to Missouri Municipal League early afternoon, and stood up there and talk basically for 30 minutes. About 10 of that was about Shelby County. Here's what it looks like. Here's how to do this. Here are the people you need at the table. Here's what the process looks like. Yes, the broadband director will sit down and walk you through this. There is money out there. MACOG, also in this space, looking for funds, how to stack it, what can we do here, what can we pull together there. So it's a luxury to be able to sit back and have that kind of an environment where everybody gets it, and everybody's pulling in the same direction at the same time. So kudos again, you guys. I've been preaching Shelby County, I've been preaching Rawls County for over a year. And I tell them, call Glen Egan, call Wiley Hibbert, they will walk you through it. They're not in prison, they're not in chains. It's okay, you can do this. So I had some people come up to me after they came into the office, had some really good talk with folks from other parts of the state, basically about how we can be quicker to the draw on this. And Lynn, you can speak to this. I don't know if any other providers are out there. Mike, you out there?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
basically what we're looking at in terms of deployment, some folks have plenty of fiber stock laid away, other folks don't. And basically what the process looks like is all this money starts flying out from the state coffers, hopefully July-ish, then the other stuff coming out of the feds that continues and ongoing with ARPA that already exists. And we've got another round coming through for structure. We got more federal money coming through. We just heard about today, NTIA. So if you guys want to walk us through, we got 3 providers in here, 2 here and 1 up on the screen. What are we looking at as far as timelines?
Well, Lewis, from our perspective, I mean, we're knee deep in our RDOF construction. I mean, we got 60,000 locations to build out. And so the nice thing, our first projects are getting online. The first one that went live is actually up in Pike County. And so that went live 2 or 3 weeks ago. What's that?
Corner.
I couldn't understand you. Sorry.
Which corner of Pike County? Which dams?
Let me. I'm not totally sure. It was just the initial project. It was like 200 passings. It was a small project, but I mean, it was our first one that we got live.
Yeah, it's also now we have 3 or 4 different providers going into Pike. So yeah, they've got some deserts.
Yeah, and I know we've talked to the county a little bit about some of the areas they'd like to focus on. That we're more than happy to do that. I think from our perspective, we knew we were going to do, from Charter's perspective, we knew we were going to do RDOF prior to COVID. So I mean, we had a lot of supplies pre-ordered. So we're in pretty good shape from that aspect. Our big thing, and I know that a number of the other providers over the interim had talked about just issues with make ready, with supply chain and labor issues that are inevitable. I'm not sure what we can do to do that, but as we've talked about, Lewis, the big thing is do we have to do something on this make ready? We've heard enough about it to know it's an issue that, if we want to get something done this year, I think it's on that pole replacement topic that we've discussed. And if we can figure out a way to get that done, we can have conversations down the road about maybe some other things. But right now, that's the one I think that most people can get behind, to really kind of work on doing what we can to expedite. I mean, there's so much money coming in, and I'm on calls where a lot of the coffers have been released in other states, and so we're looking at not getting money out in Missouri until later this year. I think we need to do everything we can to try to butt in front of people in the line, if there is a line, to get this stuff built. So that's kind of the things that we're working on more than anything. And it's just we're working with counties and cities and everyone else to try to just make sure permitting and everything goes smoothly. There's just a lot of construction that we're going to be doing over the next few years that we've got to make sure that stuff goes smoothly on the back end, so that our guys aren't delayed. We've got a goal of getting this stuff built within at the minimum 6 years, and we're continually trying to move up those timelines for our guys, because as some of these other providers default and that money goes back into the pot, the second round of RDOF is going to be upon us awfully quickly. And we want to be aggressive in that. we're all starting to, I think, coordinate this stuff a little bit better, understand what we're doing. And so, that's helpful that there's some certainty in these processes that, if you bid on a project, you're going to get the project, you're not going to get overbuilt, you're not going to get someone else coming in and building with a different subsidy. I think I just had that conversation yesterday with someone is, this NTIA application, it's a problem that it's the state's turned it in. We think that we're in good standing with those projects. One of the things the feds are trying to do is coordinate with all the other issues, all the other funding mechanisms, out there and not, duplicate resources. And I think that's part of the delay in getting those awards announced. So there's just a lot going on, and there's a lot of money, and I'm hopeful people continue to talk so that this gets built in the most efficient way to get people connected. So.
Yeah, this is Lynn with Rawls County Electric. We won 2 separate areas in RDOF, and even though we haven't received a dime of the money yet, and even though the official announcement's been made and they said the check's in the mail, it must have been on one of those trucks that rolled over in a snowstorm or something.
Slow truck.
Yeah,
It's a slow truck.
it's a slow truck. But we have we were shovel ready from the get-go, and we were all but assured that we'd get the award. And so we actually are more than 50% complete with our build area already. So we're financing that internally, knowing that funding will come. And so we did see initially some issues with some material delivery, but we had ordered that material far in advance. And so we actually have all the material in-house now to complete our required build, plus some additional building that we think we're going to do. Rawls was very lucky in the fact that we got into the project early, and sometimes you just dumb luck. We way over ordered stock on fiber. So we've been actually helping other electric co-ops with fiber needs. We've been basically transferring to other folks. Regarding the material shortages and issues, anyone who's an NRTC member, most telephone and electric co-ops that are in the business, I sit on that board, the NRTC board, and we did approve a $40 million fiber purchase. And so if you're an NRTC member, if you run short on fiber, you contact NRTC, and they not only do they have that material in stock, but because of that purchase quantity, they've been promised to move to the top of the line when ordering additional fiber materials. So there are a number of, like I said, projects across this country that are being done by both electric and telephone cooperatives, and so there's some opportunity if you do run short to access some of that fiber. But pretty much to what Lewis had pointed out earlier with Shelby County is, if you've got a plan and you know what you're going to be going after that, those fiber builds, and even the wireless stuff, wireless providers are building fiber out to those towers. This is not a time to delay in ordering that material, because it's just going to put you further behind the 8 ball. And I would also strongly suggest that you either develop a relationship with a contractor or get the resources, because there is a big shortage on fiber linemen and contractors and that equipment as well too. And so this is a great time to start establishing those relationships and start getting some commitments with those folks.
And to that point, it's one thing we're talking about within workforce development is we have enough programs literally in the state to see what we've got out here. We've got all these great commitments. We know we need it. We know time is of the essence, but we're not sure we got enough people literally to install it, when that time comes. That's another little shortage, but
there are a number of schools in Missouri and Iowa, and I'm gonna call them Midwest, that have a long history of producing linemen. And And we've really been working with those folks to try to get them to develop some fiber techs and some fiber linemen as well too, because along with stringing all this material is also splicing and the engineering side of it. There's just a lot of aspects to this. And as this money gets released and it starts hitting the market, that's really gonna rear its ugly head. The lack of manpower to keep this thing rolling, or workforce, if you will.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably, and Sherry would probably agree, it's somewhat of a universal problem with the workforce. You know, people need people, they need people that are upskilled, they need the education system to be able to help them. And I think Missouri One Start has been very good as a entity to help keep a lot of that going. And then with the food level programs that they have, I think that's helpful. Everybody's hoping it's
So I'm just trying to go around with your territory goes basically from Nebraska over here. So North Central.
Tarkio to Cahokia down to Montgomery City and Warrenton and Troy, and then over to Moberly.
So I'm just trying to think. So you got North Central, Moberly.
Yeah.
Other schools, you know, within the community college space, of course, different campuses. What are you seeing as far as a regional approach? Anybody out there, or is it just people throwing darts at the
Sherry
wall?
might have better information on that than I do.
And is that something we need to start writing letters of support for as legislators to say, yeah, we'll go find you some money, but you guys need to go find us some folks who can actually do these installs?
Well, and we're trying to get all of the counties and the whole state with this certified work-ready communities, where they do testing with some of the students that are in each of these geographical areas. And I think that can be, you know, a helpful tool as well for some of that. But like I said, Sherry, I think would have more to offer on answering those questions.
Sherry out there?
She's there.
Yes, I'm here. I apologize. I could barely hear what Linda was saying.
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out at the regional level, if we've got enough folks out there who are basically skilling up to deploy, you know, the fiber when we get it. So we've got the supplies apparently in pretty good shape. The question is, when that time comes, the checks are deposited, the labor force goes out to do it. Do we have enough people to do it? And are they, you know, properly trained? And if not, what do we need to do to get in front of that?
I do feel I can tell you just one sample is St. Joseph, and all the surrounding libraries in that area are already training staff, and they already are looking at what it's going to take to have enough computers to be able to do that. Of course, the job centers are gearing up to do that. And everything I'm hearing is all of the community colleges and adult education are preparing to be a part of that, as well as even some of the community action agencies are gearing up. So again, depending on what part of the state we're in, I'm not in on those organizational meetings, but they know the funding could come down. And I think they all are going to try to work together to make sure that if anybody wants these classes and wants assistance, and I do believe Dr. Leathers in workforce development is going to be partnering with like some of the city halls, county courthouses, that kind of thing, to see if there's a way we can partner also there. So more to come, but I think right now, all the partners know that this is going to be important, and they want to support that effort to make sure people can use broadband if they get it.
Well, just want to piggyback on it. I just talked to Marty here a couple of days ago about the military. We've basically got a veterans program out there. It's brand new. Governor just stood that up. Like, so what do we need to get in front of that? So the National Guard armies are also going to be a part of this whole training process, which is good for all of us, obviously. But again, it's something we want to make sure that we're ahead of it, not want to surf the wave. We don't be crushed by it.
Yeah, I would definitely say, I can't speak for every small town, but I think all of our more populous areas, I realize that there's still some very small towns, but I think most of them are preparing because of all the state agencies are communicating now about the need and the skilling up. So I feel like we're in pretty good shape, but of course, until we see it roll out, we don't know what those needs might be. But I think there will be opportunities for people early on, and there will be people there to assist.
The point I was trying to make is, it isn't at the user level. The point that I was trying to make is, this fiber is not going to get built if we don't have skilled labor force to actually deploy fiber into those areas. And there's already quite a shortage, and you drop 60, 100, $400 million into a state, that workforce is going to even be stretched thinner. And I will tell you, based on putting fiber in the air and in the ground for years, inspection becomes a huge part of that. And is it being done correctly? And is it going to be done to any specific code that may come with this money? Are we going to have, is there a certain criteria which is going to have to be built at? So I was really speaking before it gets to the libraries and to the city halls and to some university somewhere. I'm talking about the actual deployment of the fiber itself.
Physical.
So you're talking about the construction and the boots on the ground. So those skilled labor folks that are going to be needed for recruitment. And I'll be honest with you, I have a meeting coming up next week where hopefully I'll have a better answer. Does that help? I think we are all looking with the labor force. We're all challenged. I would put a plug in for those of you who are not aware. I know this is not an immediate solution, but we're doing a pilot on September 21st of Build My Future. And several of the people on this call are involved in that. More will be as we get closer, where we're going to have related industries, and certainly broadband deployers would be one of them. For the Northeast region, it's going to be in Macon, to introduce all of the area high school students to the different types of jobs. And so laying the kinds of jobs you're talking about, line work, electric work, construction work, any related, the students will get a firsthand look at that, with the goal that, you know, some of them could be ready in the next year or two to actually be a part of that workforce. So, but they don't know what they don't know, and that's a chance. So we certainly will keep you in mind for that, if that's something you guys want to come and participate in.
Lewis, Matt, I have some experience when I worked for a World Bank project. We brought to some African technicians to Lynn Tech and down below Jeff City. So Lynn Tech, if they're not already into this game, someone might be approaching them, Lewis, as far
they're
as,
in.
okay, then we're in.
Folks. Yeah, definitely. So Sherry, you said it was March 21st?
No.
I'm sorry, September 21st in the fall. It'll be at the Macon Fairgrounds.
April 21st?
No, September.
Yeah, but he wants it in
April.
April.
May?
Well, unfortunately, we can't put something like that together that quickly. But I guess the next step is, we know we have vocational programs in that, and we probably can look at doing, for the companies who need the people to lay fiber, we could certainly look at having some kind of a regional career day or job fair, and I can certainly talk to our workforce partners about that.
So we've got providers here and they're shaking their head, yes.
Okay, I will take the lead on that. I'll get with our workforce partners and see what we can do. And maybe have it, we do this with some large projects when they need to hire a lot of people. We may move it and have it in 3 or 4 different communities and have a specific day, and then reach out to any training programs and broadcast it. And I certainly know we can get Missouri One Start and the job centers on board to help with that.
You could easily add that to the youth summit in Hannibal, Sherry, that's coming up in March, if you wanted to do that.
We could do it there, and then we could do something maybe in Kirksville, Moberly, all of the more, larger. I know several of them have job fairs coming up. So let me get some dates and I'll get back with the group and we'll see how we can make that work, where we can maybe you could even have a shared booth, so you didn't have to be there. But if you have multiple, we know several people on this call are going to need that kind of staffing. We could certainly do a booth of just careers in the communications field.
If you need a lot of support, let me know. I'll let Cindy know. We can get you those like today. As
Yep.
quickly.
Thank you, sir. We will work on that.
Well, thank you. Trying to think, Darren, we had Callaway. You looking, you guys same basic timelines in good shape?
I mean, we're good. We have materials too. We've ordered in advance, and we have a bunch of art off. We've already, put in started building, a long time ago, and we're, I'd say, at least 50% of the way there too. So I think we did get a check back for a little bit, maybe by now, but I don't really know that for a fact, but I believe we did start receiving a payment. But we have the materials, I believe, with pretty much like Lynn said, in the workforce, and we have several good relationships with several contractors. So I think we're in good standings, but that's going to possibly change, like you're saying, with all this funding coming in. So pretty much.
Yeah, I think there's a couple, I'll give you a couple of head starts. One is, and I don't, it's not called Lynn Tech anymore. What's it?
State Tech.
State Tech.
Yep.
They've been producing linemen, and they've been producing construction type workers for some time. So it's not recreating the wheel with those type of institutions. It's really focusing them away from maybe just specific to electric, but include fiber in their criteria. And then the second thing is, when the projects get very big, we don't internalize those projects. We bring contractors in. And so it's really important to get the contractors involved in the job search, because they're the ones who are, we're going to go to and say, we need a dozen 3-man crews or 4-man crews to come in here and perform this work. So I think if we should really keep the contractors involved with this, because I'm hearing this all the time, no different than walking into your local convenience store or restaurant and figuring out they don't have employees. These folks are telling us the same thing. We can't hire or can't keep anybody, and hiring anybody with any sense of qualifications, once they go through a state tech or something, and they've got a year in state tech or something, they're a little bit more invested in it than the person you hire off the street.
I was gonna check, just so anybody from Callaway on the call, I was gonna ask if you'd heard anything as far as what Lincoln U is supposed to be getting, the NTI money. I know Harris Stubb's been really after that. I'm not sure where Lincoln's at, if anybody knows. It's basically the Jefferson City area, Holt Summit to 15 miles around that. That came up, we had a town hall in Ashland. There was like, what are they gonna do? And I'm not sure yet what that plan looks like. Anybody out there have an idea? The Callaway bridging into Audrain. So I know you're looking at Audrain, and there are some deserts out there. I talk to Ken Hayden about once a week about deserts in Audrain. So just trying to get this whole regional thing nailed down.
I don't see anybody from, at least from the county, but I will tell you that the electric co-op there, Callaway, is actively building fiber into that area as far as fiber expansion.
Renee might have an
Tracy.
update. Renee's on there. She might have.
Yeah, I can address Callaway County. Callaway County is pretty much covered between Kingdom and Callaway Electric. Callaway County is fairly well served.
Okay, and Tracy on there still.
Yeah, I'm here, Representative Riggs.
Just trying to think, as far as, Audrain, I know that's your patch.
Right. So I'm not aware. I talked to Lynn, not Lynn Hodges sitting there, Lynn Thompson from our co-op, and he didn't say anything about the building out any fiber, but I do know that Allsat and Airlink have sort of come together, and we had some road use or right-of-way permits that were submitted to us via Airlink, and come to find out they're combining, and they're coming up Highway J down on the south, sort of the south central southeast side of Audrain County. But that's the only new project I'm aware of, except for what Finks is already doing and what Spectrum's doing up on the northwest side of the county.
I I can tell you that Fink's Kingdom has been issued or authorized a grant from USDA that's going to be serving Audrain County, and it was approved for that J route as well. My problem is right now is Osage Nation is hanging up the environmentals. They're trying to stick their nose in it because they say they've got 3 burial sites somewhere in there. So I've known about my grant since January. They didn't announce until August, and I have no idea when I'll be able to break ground. In addition, we're applying for another grant that will fill in the rest of Audrain County and fill in a lot of Montgomery County if we're awarded.
In Vernon County, any? Still on the call?
Vernon County?
Yes.
No, we've talked to our co-ops around us. They're not interested in fiber, actually. They want to go pole to pole.
Aerial, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, Lynn Hodges said give him a call.
Oh, wow. Here we go. On a Friday even.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
All right, Derek, you mentioned survey. How's that coming along up in Northeast? I know Clark's really active in this space. How are things going with that?
Yeah, so our broadband mapping study, it's pretty much completed. Some of the big keys are 2 most unserved, underserved counties, Lewis County and Clark County. Just for example, Lewis County, the report. In Lewis County, there's 3,559 structures, businesses, or homes. 2,979 of those homes would be eligible for grant funding, so either underserved or unserved, with 1,965 of those being completely unserved. So, I mean, about half the county with Lewis County. And then Clark County, out of 2,927 homes and that reflects that 2,927 homes and businesses would be eligible for additional grant funding, so either unserved or underserved. So this has kind of put us into our next step of meeting with the providers. We've met with the local providers within our region, and then kind of putting a partnership together with the engineers we're working with, the counties, the internet service providers, and setting up these meetings as we move along to try to come up with plans. How do we attack to get the most reconnect money, the most federal money, and then what we're going to do on the state side to fill those gaps in.
This is my shameless plug for MACOG. So anybody out there, any questions? I refer to them as University Extension with money. You guys have the network all over the state like extension, except you actually know where the money is and how to write the grants to get the money. And had that talk with a lot of different folks, like, where do we turn to? Like, well, who's your local MACOG representative? What's that? RPC. What do they do? Well, they plan. It's in their name. It's called Planning Commission. They plan. The plan's not a contract. You can do that. So there's a lot of, I don't know what, I'm not going to call it miscommunication, just there's not a whole lot of back and forth with folks who are doing the plan. I think part of that is a lot of people got really bad legal advice. I'll just say it. It started with CARES, and CARES was tight in time frames and all sorts of other stuff. And I think people just got a really bad taste, and they carried over ARPA, which is a completely different animal. Also hearing from folks out in DC on the research side that the money coming down with the infrastructure is going to be light touch again. It's not going to be a return to CARES Act. We're going to have a lot of permitted uses like they did with ARPA. So they're trying to take a lighter touch, not a heavier touch. At least that's the preliminary signal we're getting. We'll know more as we go through. So that'll tee it up for Ray and Brian. Any idea what we're looking at? Marion, Shelby, Monroe, Lincoln, this particular area. Numbers. So see McDonald's on there way the heck down, and Oklahoma and Arkansas corner, and of course Boone. Any idea what we're looking at here in our area? Don't jump in at once.
No, Representative, I'll try to find out. And I know we're still waiting to find out how much money we're going to get out of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. I think it's about 40 billion nationwide. There a lot is coming. And also, I assume everybody saw Reconnect, the application deadline for Reconnect was pushed back to March 9th. But Representative, I'll get you an answer on that.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. It was news to us as well, but contrary to the press release that went out, that was actually something that was done back in 2020 with and supported by all of our folks and President Trump. So anyway,
Remember that guy? I'm just kind of curious here as far as the 42, so it says 13,000 unserved households. Anybody out there, and this is just sort of a general question, anybody, when we look at this, the federal standards going up to 100 symmetrical, is anybody out there looking, basically planning ahead for when that time comes? And I know fiber folks, it's not an issue. I'm just checking to see anybody else out there on the call is aware, they're talking to anybody who's not up to 100 yet. If that's something where it's a year away, 2 years, what are we looking at as far as R&D, timelines? Anybody have a handle on where that's going? And there may not be an answer to that question yet, but I'm just throwing it out there to see.
Well, excuse me, in Clark County, we just got a hold of Mark Twain and we're meeting with them in 2 weeks. They're bringing wireless in for right now, and their plan is, they said to us at the time, is to serve with wireless until they can get a cable there. They are willing to put fiber in, but they're going to let us use wireless until we can get the cable there, the fiber. They are already putting up 2 towers in Clark County. They're putting one up north on 81, and they're putting one south down by Antioch. And they are more than willing to serve us with wireless for right now. They can get the courthouse 100 up and 100 down with wireless. So that's what we've been working on with options. We checked into Starlink, and the waiting for that is too long for us. We want to get fiber or wireless in as fast as we can to our customers. So we are going to try to go that route.
And piggyback on what Joe's talking about, like with Mark Twain, like everything we've talked about, fiber, and that's kind of how I've been. But when I understand their business model and sit down and talk to them, is like getting that wireless out first to a big area, and then eventually connecting off that middle mile to getting the fiber to the home. So obviously it would be great if we could just run fiber everywhere, but getting it out quicker is going to be easier for them with the wireless side. And what I know, one issue that they had is when President Trump decided that all the Huawei or whatever pronounce that had to be removed. A lot of the radio towers that they had purchased before were that. So they kind of got 2 years of work or whatever it was, had to get all replaced with a different Chinese made product that wasn't from Huawei. So that kind of set them back on that, I know, but the wireless business model with eventually getting fiber to the home, I think is a good idea, especially in like a farming community where, there's going to be a lot of innovative ag and stuff.
Piggyback on that a little bit, as far as from a school standpoint, one of the budget numbers we're looking at is a request. It's a $30 million range for now, and we think maybe we get 2 years out of that, is to supplement at the state level what the feds are doing with, it was called emergency broadband. Now they've given another acronym, ACP, whatever, who knows. But that's something, that number was 50 per household, free reduced lunch. We've got counties in Missouri, 95% of the families are going to be eligible for this. We're talking to providers to see what they're doing. Some are aggressively marketing this, some are really not. and trying to make that a bit more robust, from the statewide level. If you want to get at the statewide money through that window, show us what your marketing plan is, basically to make sure that the folks who want at it can get at it. It's not just physical access, it's the affordability piece. So I wanted to emphasize that that's part of the discussion. The problem is we don't know how much that's going to be, and we don't know how long it's going to last. So I think what people find out is when they get it, they want to keep it, they'll figure out a way to budget for it. But right now, a lot of these communities, especially out in rural, just don't have the money to do that. So we tried the hotspot route. It didn't work. We know that. We're trying at the statewide level to address that in a serious fashion. The problem is we think maybe there's 2 years worth of money, and unless the feds transfuse us with some more, that's going to be it. So that's our pain point at this moment, is we're not sure how we're going to stretch that money past 2 years, and if it runs out, it runs out, and that's that. So just wanted to update everybody on that. Want to be sensitive of everybody's time. It's a little after 3. Anything else we didn't cover that we need to go over that we can take some action between here and our next meeting, which would be in March. So I know Sherry's working on some stuff. Our Fed folks are working on getting us some numbers. Anything else out there, Derek, from your standpoint, any of these counties where we can step in, help out? Support letters from legislators, anything along those lines? I know, Corey, you're working on some raised grant stuff. We got lots of really good things happening out here. Lots of these commissioners stepping up. We got mayors who are stepping up. It's just something we want to really encourage, that network back and forth. We'll make this available to other folks. We'll get that spreadsheet out with the bills on it so you can play along at home. And also emphasize we can do written testimony. You don't have to show up in Jefferson City. A lot of people around here have, which we appreciate that. The building's back open and people are coming in again. But if you're not able to make it, weather being what it is or whatever happens, we also have a testimony option where you can write in testimony on given bills. And we've got one guy who writes in on every bill in the General Assembly. His name's Honest Dave something, and either likes or he doesn't. He's the first one in. So apparently that's what he does.
I think it's Abe Gray.
Yeah. So people do it. Just want to let people know that that is an option. As our bills start picking up speed in the House, we're having hearings, 4 and 5 bills before every committee, which means hundreds of bills hitting the floor. My plan is to sit down with the floor leader again, with the speaker again, make sure that we've got basically a path forward to try and fast track it out. But it's going to be an omnibus when it goes out. I don't want to be doing a bunch of stuff on the floor. We want it to be nice and clean, work it through committee, hear from all the stakeholders. I'll have a meeting again with stakeholders in Jefferson City on the 28th over at Farm Bureau. We've been doing that once a month. It's called a piñata session. It's like I told everybody from the get-go, prepare to give up a little to get a lot, which is those 400,000 people to 1 million who don't have it yet. And I've also told everybody at some point or another, you're going to be really irritated with me. Sorry about that. Don't take it personally, but we got some of these bigger issues like make readies and the pole replacement, all that, where there's some people who are just adamant we don't need any of it. We've got other people adamant we've got to have more of it than we've ever had before. So say a prayer for me, prayer for the General Assembly, say a prayer for the Senate that they actually straighten up and fly right for the rest of the session and get a few things done. And that's that one X factor nobody could have foreseen. We didn't. It's here. They basically wasted 7 weeks of our legislative session doing nothing. So if there's anything else for the good of the cause, let's say thank you.
I have a comment.
Hello?
I have a comment.
Okay.
A little concern in the near term from Derek and Joe. You're suggesting that we may not have enough ability to put fiber down for a while because of shortage of contractors. And you're suggesting that maybe a near-term solution would be the more fixed wireless. So you're talking about a complementary situation where you complement both parties. Do we have that set up in such a way that it can be done, that you can get funding to kind of moving it? I'm just worried about we're going to run into a slowdown big time here with the fiber, putting it down in the ground. So you're suggesting a solution, Derek, you and Joe, where are you going with it? What do you suggest in trying to deal with that?
Well, part of, I think the business model is they're going to get fiber to their towers and then on the way have final mile fiber run to houses. So the initial run is going to be to the towers to get a spread with the signal.
Do you have
I guess
enough funds? Do you have enough funds to do that now?
Like who? The county or the ISP?
Well, the highest peak, I guess.
Well, I mean,
I'm not sure.
In our northeast 6 counties, the most money any county got was $5 million. So there isn't going to be a lot of money coming from our counties that are going to go to the internet service providers. There might be some matching grants possible, but that's why with all the work that we've done is to do whatever we can to go after any reconnect funding, to assist with the ISP, to go after any federal funding, and then provide us any ammunition that we need to have to go after additional state funding. So,
Okay, so what you're telling me is if you had more money, you would come up with complementary combinations. Is that what you're saying? Is that an area that we should be giving more thought to? How do we deal with what you're telling me that would complement that kind of a movement? Because the real bottleneck here is we may not have the contractors available for a while. So
Well,
yes, fixed
Abner,
wireless.
Yeah, Abner, to that point, there are folks out there say the Marion County approach was, here's your money. You're not doing anything within incorporated city limits. You're taking care of the county. And as I mentioned earlier, bill basically to allow folks to get, put towers up basically to repeat the signals. It's going to be a problem for us in a lot of areas of the state, way down the Ozarks. We've got some areas up in Northwest, even some in Northeast where it's just not feasible. 2 people per square mile. It's never going to make money ever. Where we've got to use the towers, you're never going to see fiber out to those homes. So there are strategies in place where folks are figuring this out.
Okay.
If we're talking to folks in cable, I mean, there are other, folks basically trying to bridge this gap through use of existing technology. When the other stuff amps up, it'll be there, but we're just not quite there yet.
Okay, that's what I needed to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're working on it. It's just, there's no one state that's figured all of this out, and there's no easy answer. And it's just something, unless people want to be heavily regulated, and no one does, we're gonna have to figure it out for ourselves. And we're doing a pretty good job of it. Nothing that money won't cure.
it's like my father-in-law says, there's more than one way to skin a skunk and none of them are good.
Exactly.
Some good Kevin Fromm wisdom.
There you go.
All right.
That's him.
If there is nothing else, we'll go ahead and adjourn. Again, thank everybody for coming out on a Friday afternoon, and we'll set up a time. I don't know if Ally will be back by then. If not, Ally will be Jeff. We'll get you time for the next one. We'll set up and we'll do this again and see what we're doing with the federal dollars. We'll have a better picture by then. We'll be through markup in the House. We'll know exactly what's going over to the Senate, what amounts, and what's left of the governor's ask. And we'll see what happens from there. So again, thank everybody, and we will see you next month. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.